What can you tell us kind of about that trade package? Because you probably know those guys better than we do, better than just about anyone else.
Yeah. Thorpe's the only one that you probably know more than me. I've only seen video of him, and then I've played catch with him a couple times, but good demeanor and good person. But Higgy was actually one of my good buddies in the minor leagues. I played with him in Scranton, so I know him really well. How he handles a clubhouse is awesome. You need a catcher that can do both as a position player and pitcher, and the preparation that he puts into it makes me really comfortable on the mound because I know what he's calling is something that, one, he knows I'm good at executing, but also he knows it's a weakness for the hitter. And then Brito and Vasquez are two guys that I learned just this year are unbelievable. Like their stuff, if you watch a bullpen, if you see their metrics, it's incredible. And they just got to kind of hone in their craft. And they're super young, so they have a ton of upside. And they throw gas. They got great stuff. So I think that both of them are going to be around for a long time.
To be traded, that's a pretty major upheaval, but to be traded with those guys, how much does that maybe help you get settled here?
100%, yeah. It's nice just having friendly faces. I know we got Wandy Peralta, too, that's over here. Tyler Wade's over here. There are a couple guys that I used to play with, so Glenn Otto, guys that it makes me a lot more comfortable to actually come in and be myself instead of be that quiet kid and then kind of feel everybody out. So I'm appreciative that we have a lot of guys that I used to play with.
Were you going into this offseason preparing the same way, that you would be making a move into the rotation, or did this change anything?
Yeah, I was always told that with the Yankees too, just come in and be prepared to build up. So it's kind of the same offseason. The only difference is knowing that I have a spot is a lot better. It makes me feel like I can actually use spring training to work on stuff and try some things out instead of really having to fight for a spot. Whereas with the Yankees, I obviously wanted to be a starter, and I begged for it with Aaron Boone a lot. But in spring training, if I had a bad outing, I know that would put me down on the list. Where now I'm talking to Ruben, and we're talking about whether it's a little mechanical change or even a sequence that I'm not used to throwing that I can work on in spring training and see how it works.
How did the other event in your life in December go?
Oh, it was great. Oh, yeah. Yep. That trade happened about a week before, and it took our mind a little bit away from that. But, yeah, the wedding was awesome, and we had a little 5-day honeymoon, so it was great.
Michael, the last 6 or 7 weeks when you did start exclusively last year, what did you learn from that experience?
The biggest thing for me was wanting to turn on and off the bullpen mentality. I always felt like I struggled with it my first couple outings where I'd come in the first inning and be like, oh, I got to cruise as a starter and save my energy for 100-plus pitches. But then I'd get into tough situations and continue to be in that cruise control instead of getting that mentality of like, these runners can't score, and I got to lock it in. So that was actually a big thing I talked to Harkey about, our bullpen coach. And he said, listen, you go out there and, yeah, you can find your groove and go at almost 80% against certain guys that you know are not going to swing first pitch, and you can groove a 91-mile-an-hour fastball in there instead of 97. Or if you get into a bad count against somebody, just throw a sinker down and get a ground ball, hope it's an out. Whereas as a reliever, I was okay walking a guy because all I wanted to do was get strikeouts and walks. Not walks, but I just didn't want contact. And so I think that changing the mentality from that no contact to contact's okay at certain points in the game was a huge learning curve for me, and I feel like I was able to get it in my last couple starts. But another thing that I've talked to Ruben and even Musgrove and you about in terms of like their mentality when you can get in that cruise control as a starter.
What makes you believe that you have the durability to go out for 25 to 30 starts?
Yeah, knock on wood, I was awesome last year. I felt great. Had nothing happen to me last year. I think that I was having a nagging bone injury for a long time. I even had it in college and then had it, I think, popped up in 19. And I think it was just something that almost needed to go. And now that I have hardware in there to protect me, I have all the confidence in the world that it's going to last me for the rest of my career.
Presumably it's gonna be a significant workload increase. What have you done to kind of prepare for what the season might bring?
Yeah, I mean, I was really happy I was able to get over 100 innings last year. I also think that I'm sure there is science behind a huge jump in innings increase, but the off-the-field activities that I have to do and make sure that I'm recovering to make sure that I'm strong enough to come in and be able to do it is something I'm priding myself on. I never was given the opportunity to throw 150-plus innings. I keep telling Ruben I want 180 to 200, so I'm going to make sure that my body's ready for it and be prepared to do it.
We've heard a lot of guys come to San Diego and really rave about working with Ruben. So far, what's that experience been like?
my first call about Ruben was with Corey Kluber, and so I know he just retired, but he told me that he would not have 2 Cy Youngs without Ruben, and immediately that makes me really confident going into it. And then the first conversation I had with Ruben was like an hour and a half long conversation, and it wasn't really just about me, it was just about pitching in general, and I couldn't feel like I fit more with him than anybody else. He's super prepared in terms of video and really just like homework on hitters, and that's my favorite thing to do. I always said that my greatest strength was knowing the hitter's weakness, and with a guy like that is so decorated as he is in terms of helping pitchers, and Kluber's a guy that I emulated myself off of. I'm so excited to get to work with him and actually see him in season. Even like throughout the whole off season, I would send videos here and there, normal off seasons, but Ruben was like, hey, we got to up the communication. I want to talk to you all the time. Every time you get off the mound, I want to know how you're feeling. And it's great to just have that guy that I can go back on and really, really trust in terms of what he's doing mechanically, and also then in season when we get preparation-wise.
You learned your slider from Kluber, is that right?
Kluber was the one that taught me. I still call it the Kluber ball. I'm not huge into the sweeper term of it, but it's a Kluber ball to me.
You throw it like a curveball?
Kluber always struggled to define it, and that's why it's now called the sweeper, but it's from my slot, I have to feel like I'm throwing a curveball because I'm a lower slot. But guys that have a higher slot that are trying to get that sweep have to think that they're more slinging it from a lower slot. So it's really different per pitcher. With Kluber, it was the main point for me was actually shortening my stride so I could feel like I'm getting on top of the ball, because everything I throw is more underneath it because I'm a lower slot guy. And I didn't have that cue until Kluber watched me, and he was like, hey, I think we got similar release points, and these are the cues that helped me, and it became one of my best pitches for the last couple of years. Yeah.
Speaking of that, how has it like affected your career, your ability to go deeper into games?
Well, yeah, I also think that when I first came up into the big leagues, I was not fit to be a starter because I had basically just a sinker and then command of a changeup. I didn't have a four seam, didn't have a slider, and Kluber then helped me with the slider, and then my four seam got a little bit better. So now I have a pitch package where I feel like I can flip a lineup multiple times and be able to either save some things or have better sequences later on in the count or later in the game, because I didn't have that as a 1 or 2 pitch pitcher when I first came up. So that's why I felt like I found myself in the bullpen. But then when Kluber helped me with that, I felt like it really opened up the door for me in terms of being a starter.
Well, a year ago at this time, do you have any thoughts or expectations of the Padres? They're almost like this year's Dodgers, like this is the team to be. They're going to go to the World Series. You remember what you were thinking a year ago?
With the Padres team? I mean, they spent a ton of money and they got a great locker room in there. And the talent that they have still in there, even though they lost Hader and Snell. I guess I don't know about Snell, but and Soto. It's insane to walk through that locker room and see the guys that are in there. Joe and you are 2 guys that I'm like pumped to work with. They're super hard workers. I came in and I'm like, the ace of the team is the first one here today. It's weird things like that I'm just really pumped to be around. And then I met Manny once. He's awesome. And then Bogart's this guy that I'm so glad I'm not facing him ever again. So the talent that's here is insane. I know they underperformed last year, but I think that we still have a ton of talent in here, and we're kind of meshing as a team. And I think that chemistry is something that can really add to wins.
What was the timeline like with the wedding and the trade? And like, were you wedding planning, prepping when you got traded, and how did that all go down?
All of the plans were set, but the couple weeks before wedding, you get that kind of like anxiousness, and we're thinking about, I guess that's anxiety, not anxiousness, and we're almost losing sleep already just thinking about the big day. And then all the rumors were going around, and I'm sitting there like, I don't think I'm actually going to get traded. I never saw myself getting traded. And then it was one day that my wife Sheila asked me, like, do you think you're going to get traded? And as soon as she asked me that, I realized this is actually pretty serious. So we ended up losing a little bit of sleep for a couple days. I think that was on the Wednesday, like a week and a half before our wedding. And so when I was super excited to get to, once I actually realized my opportunity here, I was super excited, but I was sad that it took away like the 3 or 4 days before our wedding. And then it got to a point where it was like, hey, it's the Monday of our wedding week. We're not even thinking about it. We're just going to be full go on the wedding. So we ended up having a blast, and yeah, it was awesome.
In New York?
In New York, yep. She's from the New York, New Jersey area. So even if I wasn't on the Yankees, I guarantee you I would have been doing a New York wedding anyways. So it was good.
How much time did you spend in San Diego after the honeymoon?
So we went. I actually, weirdly enough, had a wedding out in San Diego. So I went out, met a bunch of people, saw Petco, threw a bullpen, And then we did that pitchers camp a couple weeks ago, and I was able to go there, and it was great for me because I was able to develop a bunch of relationships already with guys, whether it was players or coaching staff. I'm not coming into this blind, so I come in and I know a lot more people. I know all the coaching staff. I know trainers and strength coaches. It was great for me in terms of relationship development. But then it was also great to really be like, hey, like spring training's around the corner. So it was a good experience to have that pitchers camp. So I've been in San Diego for maybe a week or two.